All right. Well, hello, climate change, brother.
How's it going? How you doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Good.
We had a big party the other day, a big family gathering.
Yeah, all the family came. That was good.
Yeah, it gets kind of packed. We got a pretty big extended family here.
Point number 1. Homes are usually made out of common construction materials such as wood or cement.
What do they build a lot of homes out here with? What kind of material do they use in a lot of houses out here?
I think it would be wood or concrete. That would be most of it.
Wood and concrete. They do like stick. Like the wood ones are called stick houses. That's when they put up stick. It's actually just
cookie cutter houses.
Well, stick houses are wood houses,
Yeah.
and then you got cement houses. You got block houses.
Point number 2. Adobe in the last several decades has become a high in demand material for making houses that has gone up in price.
With a certain kind of block or brick, it's called adobe brick. They have a lot of houses that have that. Adobe comes from a long time ago for when the Native Americans made adobe blocks out of mud, out of dirt, and they built things with it, or they piled up, made walls out of them and forms and stuff.
Yeah, have you ever been to that Casa Grande?
Yeah, Casa Grande.
Yeah, Casa Grande National Monument.
Yeah.
They have
Right.
that national monument there where the natives built these
Right.
structures. So that's a good example of it. It's lasted for centuries.
Oh, yeah.
Those structures have lasted for a long time.
And Mexico makes a lot of adobe bricks still. I mean, they make the best adobe bricks, and they import them up here. But they're kind of expensive now. It used to be all homes were built with adobe bricks everywhere. It was kind of cheap. Now it's like a big deal. It's like, oh, I want to build an adobe wall. And it's really expensive now to get real adobe, like, brick.
Point number 3. The cheapest material used to make houses with are cinder blocks.
So right now, the cheapest material to build a wall with is, would you know what that might be?
Dirt.
Well, dirt, if you do dirt, yeah, if you do it on your own. But if you have somebody hire, like just buy blocks, it's still the cinder block. The cinder block is still the cheapest thing you can use right now.
Point number 4. Frank in the last several years has made his own Adobe-like earth blocks from scratch, using his own form and dirt supply. He's experimented with using other materials such as straw, cement, and gravel.
Well, I'm making some adobe bricks myself. Did I tell you about that?
I think you did. Yeah, you showed them to me one time. I went outside and I looked at them. They look pretty impressive. That's pretty good for making them yourself, because a lot of these things we're going to talk about are done with machines, but you did those by hand.
I think I had 6 dump trucks full of dirt. I thought, well, I'm going to try to make some adobe bricks out of it. I put them in these forms, and I probably sent you a picture of the forms. I just made these wooden forms. I added enough water so it was like the consistency of cement. Then I poured in these forms. I'd pack them down, and then I would wait for it to dry, maybe just for a couple minutes, because you don't want it to stick to the sides. And I just pull up the form, and the block would be sitting there, and I just let it dry. I've been letting these sit outside for like 2 or 3 years now, because I want to see which ones. Some of them I put a little bit of cement in it, and some I put some coloring in it to make them different colors, and some I put in some more rocks and more straw in it. So I play with some different scenarios to see which ones would hold up, and you can tell from the photo I took that some, after a few years of the hard rains here, have eroded away, but other ones have stayed pretty well formed, and so I'm going to use those to build with my little step wall I'm going to build out front. So.
Point number 5. An excellent design with compressed earth blocks is making double-walled compressed earth block houses. This allows for electrical, plumbing, and insulation kinds of advantages in homes.
Now, some people build double compressed earth block walls, so that they have a channel through the middle of their home, let's say, and they run their power lines through the hollow space in the middle between the two walls, if you would. And that's really good, because then you have double insulation plus a barrier, plus a air gap in between, so the heat has a harder time to transfer back and forth. So you really have great insulation there. Plus you want all your conduit and power lines, and sometimes you can run your plumbing through, and you got everything set up for a house.
Point number 6. People most of the time utilize a machine that makes compressed earth blocks instead of making them by hand like Frank did.
Now, but you can do, a lot of people are doing this, they'll actually make them on their own. They'll rent a machine, or they'll buy a machine, and they'll bring it over and they'll go, okay, like me, I had all this dirt, I didn't know what to do with it. If I'd have known that, I probably would have just rented a machine.
Point number 7. Before you start making compressed earth blocks, it is important to test your soil for the amount of clay and sand it has. A variety of class column tests can be used for this.
Have you ever tested to see what it looks like? How you test with the say clay versus sand? How you figure that out in your soil? What I've seen them do is they pour water in there, like in a tall column or a tall glass or something with dirt in it, and it starts to separate, and you can see with the sand and the clay part. I think the sand is down at the bottom, if I'm not mistaken, and the clay is at the top, something like that. But you can actually measure it, and you can see a definite difference between the two, and you can kind of mark a line after a few days, and then it's like, oh, I got this much, 40%, 60%, or 50-50.
Point number 8. After testing the soil, you can adjust the amount of sand or clay in it and then add cement afterwards.
So if it's not right, you can kind of add a little more sand or add a little more clay, but depending on what you need. What a lot of them do is they'll add 10% cement. Now, I know we just talked about how bad cement was, but it's only 10%, so it's saving 90%.
I heard it's between 5 and 10%.
Point number 9. The accepted process for making compressed earth blocks is to prepare the soil properly by adding in the cement and water to it.
It was really cool when they were making them. They would mix the cement in first with a rototiller, after they had their big long line of dirt laid out on the ground. They'd mix in the cement, the 10% that they added, and then they would have a hose, like a little water hose, and they would spray water on it, and then start mixing that in, and spray more water, mix it in.
Point number 10. If the mixing process is done properly, the soil mixture should be uniform and then clumped together properly.
It's just going to be moisture throughout. It's not going to like a uniform sort of, things are like damp, as it were. It's hard to describe, but what they do is they grab the soil and if they can compress it together and it kind of sticks together in their hand, then that's a good, like if you're making a mud ball or something like that, you can, and then they just dump it in the machine and they start making bricks out of it.
Point number 11. Earth block machines can be expensive or cheap depending on the labor and number of bricks you want to make at one time.
And so you were saying that what's the cost of some of these machines, though?
I think they're around 50 to 80,000.
Some of them are, yeah. So you can get some really good ones. But some are just a couple thousand, that make one, pump out one brick at a time and, don't have the fancy conveyor belts or anything like that. So it may take a little more time, but they'll make them as well.
Point number 12. You can save a lot of money on constructing your own home by renting an earth block machine.
So if you do it on your own and rent a machine or you buy a machine, then you're talking about maybe saving 30% on your cost over other premium type materials that would be similar building materials. You may be way under that. And so you might save a lot of money doing that if you're going to build a whole house out of it or something.
Point number 13. Compressed earth block or rammed earth homes are being included in city and county building codes so that the homes can become more common and constructed.
The thing I think I like about that could be good with these is that they just need to start putting these into more building codes, because I know like up in Maricopa County, which is the next one to us, they have building codes for these type of material, for these type of houses, where they have like adobe rammed earth and compressed earth block. They have certain kind of physical specs that they need, So they've been able to write the code so that you can make houses out of these, and they'll stand up and they'll last for a while.
Yeah, I think it's becoming more and more popular. So I think they're going to have to probably accommodate for that more and more, which is nice.
Point number 14. As a summary, there are great sustainability and climate change advantages for making earth block homes.
For the most part, I think there's more advantages than disadvantages from what I've seen. Yeah. I really like the idea that you can get earth that's around your area to make these houses. I think that's a really good advantage, that it's renewable, that it's got less embodied energy for it, like it doesn't take up as much energy to make these, that they last longer, that the houses last for several hundred years, where a regular house doesn't last as much. For climate change, our one viewer was right. These are really much better for climate change.
All right, man. Well, till next time, we'll talk about all things that help out with the climate change. And we'll try to analyze things that we think that are helping out with climate change, but maybe it could be done better. So sometimes we talk about that too.
Yeah.
All right.
Nice.
Well, so until next time, we'll see you then.